Okay, Black Level members, this is your supplemental video for live stream number 5, where we talked about adding constraints on the mountain to help force your body into positions that are going to help improve your technique. So I wanted to give you more of a dry land visual, and then I'll make sure to add another supplemental video that's gonna go on the snow and actually show you in person on a pair of skis what's going on. But I think it's really important to look at it in a full body dry land situation where you can actually see what I was talking about. So the very first thing we discussed, kind of adding these constraints just to kind of bring you up to speed with the live stream. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. We talk about reducing the amount of area that you have to make turns. And we talked about getting rid of the poles at the beginning of this as well, so we can get our hands in a good position. And then basically keeping our hands downhill and allowing ourselves to create a better turn and a quicker motion. We also talked about fall line, basically where you roll a ball down the hill, and that's where the fall line is essentially. And most of the scenarios I discussed in the live stream are all based on a single fall line situation, almost assuming that the slope is even all the way across. And then we're just creating boundaries at the beginning, and then maybe adding boundaries with trees and then boundaries with moguls and so on. So be sure to go back and listen to that. I think it'll be really helpful. So one of the things we talked about is keeping your hands out in front and keeping a quiet upper body. And it was difficult to show this when I'm talking sitting down at a chair. So I wanted to show this video so you can actually see what I'm talking about from head to toe. So if I'm facing down the fall line in front of me, and I start with my hands out and my feet are also in front of me, okay? As I go into a turn, I want my hands to stay in that same position, okay? So if I step into a turn, you can see my upper body really doesn't change, okay? So there's a couple things I want to point out here that are going on, okay? Is hands are still here. You can see my shoulders are still here. But I want you to look at one very important thing. This back hip is also turned down the hill. You'll remember in the live stream I talked about having my belly button attached to a cord going down the slope attached to a tree, okay? What this is going to do is actually pull this hip this way. The reason being is it's easy to have my hip turned back and have my hands still forward and my shoulders still forward. And that's not what we want, because then that back hip is dropping into the uphill side of the hill. And that's actually going to really create some problems in weighting and also maybe getting off balance and then dropping my hand, and then you end up going into the hill, or maybe your turn continues beyond what it needs to. So as I step into this quiet upper body, keep an eye on this hip as I step into the turn rather than just the hands and shoulders. The hands and shoulders are important, but I want you to watch this hip. Okay, there you go. So now I'm in a good stance. You'll notice from the stance video that I also put in the notes, if you haven't looked at that, I'm more or less in that stance. Half a boot width apart this way, and about a boot length heel to toe this way, right angle on the back foot, all that good stuff. Now, again, that's a static snapshot. It's not a dynamic stance that's gonna be in a variable situation. But I do wanna point it out that that's what I'm stepping into. So this back hip still forward, everything's going down the hill, back up. As I go into the other side, it looks like that. And this is a good exercise to do at home as we get into these types of turns and practicing that. Now you'll notice I'm stepping out about a 45-degree angle. I talked about this at the end of the live stream and had a couple little YouTube shorts that show me skiing. One thing we don't want to do is cross too far over where we're across the hill in a tight situation. If we're trying to go across the hill, obviously that makes sense, but it's much harder if I go across the hill, even if I've got that good body position we talked about, my back hip is still forward, belly button's down the fall line, for me to stand up and go all the way across the hill again requires more effort. And so what we're doing is only going about a 45-degree angle out here. And then when I step up, I'm going about a 45-degree angle there. You can see everything is waist down. Quiet upper body here, here, here. And it's allowing everything to happen waist down. So that's your supplemental video. There's some other things I want to build upon in future videos to talk a little bit more about what you might be feeling, but I want you to play around with that. So go up on the slopes, take a run or two. It's always good just to work on technique and what's going on. Create one of these games, constrain an area that you're working within, and focus on keeping a quiet upper body, belly button attached with an imaginary cord down the hill, and focus on working everything from waist down, keeping those hands in front, and keep that hip situation in mind that I was talking about here. If you got any questions, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking, and we'll keep building better telemark technique here. Hope you have a great week. Spread telemark always. See you later.